Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank. In the middle is Vicky Brkich, and of course, Gary Groob as usual. Vicky is a former player, a Hall of Fame player, and who else could talk about the history of lacrosse better than a lacrosse player? So you're a historian as well. So the first question, I guess, has to be the one we always ask: how did you pick up a stick?
Well, in 1971, the Richmond Roadrunners Junior A team had an amazing season, and I was watching all of the games. They went on to win the Minto Cup in 7 games in overtime, I think against Peterborough. And really, everybody out here went lacrosse crazy after that. And in the spring of '72, they opened up registration for girls, and for the first time in the Lower Mainland, and registrations went crazy. And I signed up to play. I was 17, and I signed up to play for a junior girls box team.
Yeah, you're from Chilliwack, so that's another.
I'm actually originally from Richmond. I'm in Chilliwack now that I'm retired, but I'm from Richmond, BC.
BC, yeah. Well, BC has a pretty good group of people that love the game of lacrosse.
Yes.
So you come by it honestly is what I guess the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
How did it feel? I'd like to ask this question. How did it feel joining up as a female player in something that was not done before? What was the most interesting challenge you had being a part of that?
Well, I think the first challenge was being taken seriously. Of course, and then the other challenge for me was getting the equipment, because with my last name Brkich, my parents are immigrants, and they don't understand or didn't care for sports or never had an opportunity to play sports, so they would never have paid the amount of money that you need to pay to suit up to play box lacrosse. So, you know, I was lucky that a bunch of boys that I went to school with, they were quite interested in us girls giving it a shot, and they gave us their old equipment, their sticks, their pads, everything. But after that, you know, once we started, we had 2 really good adults coaching us, and I didn't feel like I was different than anybody else at that time. I did later when I was older, but initially when I started, I didn't feel like we were being left out of anything or not being, you know, taken seriously enough. That came later. But initially, lacrosse was so hot in Richmond that time that there were multiple girls teams signing up all over the place and receiving good newspaper coverage for the signing up and coming out to play. So initially it was good, but it faded quickly. That was the thing. It wasn't long lasting.
Maybe because of the challenges that young girls had in being able to, what you spoke to, which was equipment and being a new opportunity to join leagues and stuff.
Yeah, and also too, I think once the fever kind of passed, I felt that parents started pulling their girls out because it was too rough. Initially, I didn't think the parents thought, you know, it was going to be as rough as it was, and it was rough.
Funny thing is, we've talked to a few women, and what I've heard is they like it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, but the parents didn't.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, Gary. And I was lucky. My parents never came to watch, so you know,
they didn't know any better. They didn't know any better.
They had no idea, so it was good for me. I was free sailing. But the younger girls, you know, the parents said, "Hey, you got knocked on the boards a few times, you know, butt ended, whatever. That's it. You're not playing this anymore."
Right. Did you have any role models, or were you kind of figuring this out as you went along?
Well, I mean, I had no female role models,
right?
But I sure looked up to the Tasker brothers, the Pinder brothers, Durante brothers, all playing on the Roadrunners. I've been watching them, and they motivated me for sure.
Right.
So I was motivated. I went to lacrosse box all the time and
Right.
played in there by myself and tried to drag other people there. I wanted to get good at this sport.
Right.
And I don't know where that came from, but I wanted to be good.
Right. Did you have other sports that you drew this energy from, or did just
You
kind
know
of
what?
where I want
I
to be?
played other sports in high school. I played volleyball and I played basketball and I did some track,
Mhm.
but they weren't like I wasn't number one on the first string. I was just a body. But lacrosse was different for me, and I think because I put the time in, I became very confident with my stick skills and my shooting skills, and I was pretty confident that I could score a goal, and I wanted to score goals.
Mhm.
And maybe I didn't have that kind of drive. Maybe with basketball and volleyball, I guess it's because it wasn't something you did by yourself a lot. With a box, you could just go to the box and shoot around, and somebody's always coming down to the lacrosse box, and you got other people to shoot with, and so lacrosse, box lacrosse was my best sport in terms of my ability over anything else I played. Later on, older, I played soccer, I played ice hockey, but box lacrosse, and I played field lacrosse, but box lacrosse was my best.
Right. If someone told 17-year-old Vicky that one day that she would represent Canada, what would she have said?
I wouldn't have believed it.
Right.
Because and that's kind of a kind of a sore point for me because I left the box game to try out for Team Canada for field lacrosse.
Right.
And when I look back on that, I wish I hadn't, because the box lacrosse died after that. Field lacrosse came in and killed the box participation, and I was a way better box player than I ever was a field player, because back in the early 80s, the field game, the women's field game, was very different from what it is like today.
Sure.
And it was not an easy game to pick up, to learn to catch and throw and shoot with no pocket.
That's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing I want to get
no pocket. And so, I was a better box player.
I'm always amazed watching, even now, the accuracy that women have with this, because it's like shooting with a tennis racket. I've tried it and I've broken a number of windows that I have no idea where. And I really can't figure that out. I love the pocket, obviously, and how much of a difference when you were going out for field to try and learn this thing without a pocket here and all the other silly rules that came along with it.
Yeah, it was hard. And the very last year of women's box lacrosse in BC for a long time was 1982. That was the year I didn't play. I tried out for field, but there were 2 girls on our field team who were playing box at the same time. And I tell you the truth, I don't know how they did it, because there's no way I could pick up a box stick one night and then the next night pick up a field stick. It was frustrating. It really was frustrating to not be able to be proficient with the stick. And that was the part I hated the most. I was not proficient with that field stick.
Right. We had Aaron Bakes on and a couple of the other Canadian women on just after the World Championship. One of the things that they had mentioned was nowadays, just because of technology, they're able to keep the same shaft, so they're able to work it for their own being and just have to change heads for what they're doing with their box, which is entirely different, I'm sure, from the 70s and 80s of what you had to go through there.
Yeah, from what I understand, I think that the stick they use today is a little bit more forgiving and has a little bit of a pocket. I would say it's not comparable to a box stick pocket, but it's way better than what we had. And I have to tell you too, is anytime we could cheat a little bit and put our fist in there and make a bit of a pocket, we did. But the referees checked your sticks. And half the ball has to show up above the edge of the stick. Otherwise, they tell you to tighten your pocket.
Right.
So yeah, it was tough.
Right. Let's talk a bit about the 70s box still. And what did the women's game look like in the 70s? How many teams, and was there really a huge impact in there?
Are we just talking BC right now, or what are we talking?
No, BC, where you were.
Yeah. Well, in 72, like I said, they had a big, huge registration of girls. And in 72, they ran 5 what they call junior girls teams, ages 17 to 21. And then what happened the next year is that there were no teams. We lost all 5 teams.
Right.
I don't know why. But so I resurrected a team from Richmond, and I got a team going with another person in Burnaby, and we had a 2-team league. And then we built it up. And by the time we were in to 1977, we had a good, healthy, strong 6-team women's league, very competitive, very rough, lots of good skills. I played against Michelle Boyer, who you know and who you've interviewed, and her team was the Kirby's Clipettes, and my team at the time was White Rock Titans, and later we were the Richmond Roadrunners. By 78, we had our first national championship called the Dorothy Robertson Cup, and it was held in White Rock, BC. Our team hosted it, and I would say between 1977 and 1981, women's box in the Vancouver Lower Mainland was very competitive, very interesting, and a real tight race. You never know which team is going to come on top. And I battled quite a bit against her team. We met in the national final, that Dorothy Robertson Cup, against Kirby's, 78, 79, and 80. They won 78, 79, I think in overtime. We won 1980 in overtime. In 1981, they never showed up, and we beat a really great team from Ontario called the Owen Sound Kinsmen. Best juvenile team in Ontario in 81, and we beat them in overtime. So, and then the following year, the last year of the Dorothy Robertson Cup, it was won by Mississauga, and that was it. It hasn't been one since.
Really?
So there has not been a senior women's national championship since, and I don't know why. I just don't understand it. But
yeah, that's something that we should be looking into to resurrect, because we have so many other programs going on. I really do think it would be almost comparable at this stage now to the energy that we put into the Man Cup, and have the same theory and the same formulas. And if we have the kind of interest that I do think we have now, I don't think that if we can get some organizations on board, it would be that far a stretch to redo it. Talk about the chemistry on the Richmond team, and especially over the winning years. What was the talent or chemistry on that team, and who was there that made you the better player?
Well, we had a real good cast of young players. I was the oldest on the team. I'm 71 now, but I would have been about 24, 25, 26, 27 during those years. And I was also coaching prior to those years as well. So a lot of these girls that came up to play on my team were girls I had coached. So I was we had some great players, Shelley Sedgwick, Janice Ross, defender. Our coach was Roger Ross, Janice's husband, and he pushed us and he put a lot of time into our team, and we worked hard. Trying to think of some other. Shannon Shigioka was a great defender. We had a girl from White Rock, Ann Jorgensen, come out to play for us in Richmond. She was a great player. Wilma DeJong, lots of really good players. And I would say I was impressed. I say I knew them when they were kids, and now they were adults and they were playing with me, and I was very thankful that they continued in the sport.
Right.
That's why I coached them, actually, so they would continue and come up and play.
Right. See, the odd thing is, we talked to a lot of the NCAA coaches and things like that, and they were never the outstanding player on the team when they played.
Mhm.
They had to
Yeah.
work for everything, which is what made them such a great coach,
Yeah.
because they had to examine their own abilities and see where they had to work on to get better, as opposed to the gifted players, which just kind of did it and really couldn't
Yeah.
explain. You being
Yeah.
a coach, but also being an elite player, that's an anomaly. That's something that doesn't really happen that often.
Yeah.
Talk about, when you're playing with these guys as well as coaching them. Was it more of a coaching session in practice, or was it, just with the gals doing their thing?
Well, once we became teammates, I was the captain of the team for many years.
Right.
So I provided leadership in that way.
Right.
But the coach did the 100% of the coaching. And like I say, these girls worked hard, and they didn't need any more coaching from me.
Right. One of the games that jumps out, of course, is the 22-point game. Take us through this game. What do you remember about
Well, boy,
different
since
about
I've been working on the history of the game, that particular year was the Dorothy Robertson Cup in Quebec. Quebec hosted in Anjou in 1980, and they entered 6 teams into the tournament. Now, the Quebec Women's League only started up in 1979. Their teams were pretty weak.
Right.
And the way the tournament was set up, there were 6 Quebec teams, there were 2 BC teams, and then there were 2 really good Ontario teams. So basically, really, the 2 Ontario teams, 2 BC teams, we just pummeled those Quebec teams.
Right.
But the way the tournament was set up, it was a goals for, goals against kind of thing to get out of your division. We were playing, I think we tied Etobicoke 6-6 or something, and therefore we had the next game we played, we had to win by 31 goals in order not to show up and play against Kirby's Clipettes in the semis.
Right.
Considering that we had already met them 3 times in the last 3 in the final, we did not want to meet them in the semis. We wanted to meet them in the finals. So we had to score 31 goals. And we literally, it was like playing against pylons. We took the face off. We pretty well ran down the floor unimpeded. I don't know what those Quebec girls were thinking, but I don't remember getting hit. We just went and scored, and ran back to center. The crowd was booing us. The Anjou supporters were booing us. I think it was, Anjou we were playing against, the host team. I'm embarrassed about it now when I think about it. But, I was telling Stan Gilkinson this. He was the coach of Etobicoke, and he said, at the time, he said, you know what? We would have done the same thing. We would have run the score up too. I mean, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do to not have to play what's considered the best team in the semifinals. Sure. So that's how I got the 22 points. Was by and a lot of people got a lot of points too. Just by running up and down right away, scoring right away, and sprinting back to center so that we ended up getting. I think we won 39-0, something like that. So it was very. I feel badly for Anjou now. Now that I'm looking up their history and learning more about them. And
sure. It's funny because if this happened in this day and age, with the internet and everything else, you guys would have been put out as the villains as opposed to doing something to avoid, meeting up with the Clipettes in the semis. That's crazy.
Right. That's right. So,
funny.
But I've never had anything like that any other time. All our games were always, maybe the most we ever won by was maybe 10 goals, but usually they were pretty close.
Right. Let's talk a bit about building the sport, because through the into the 80s, it wasn't just about playing. You coached, recruited, organized. Talk about all the other hats that you wore along the way, other than just being this elite player.
Well, we didn't have any money and no financial support, so we're always looking to raise money. We were going to take our three box teams in 1976. We were planning to come to Toronto and play in the CNE tournament. I don't know if you're aware of the CNE tournament. They had a girls lacrosse tournament outdoor on a field with
Right.
box dimensions but no boards. Anyways, we were going to go and play in that, but we couldn't get the money together to go, and never had a chance again to play a team from Ontario again until they came out our way in '78. But yeah, you're coaching. You're always looking for players to play because you're always losing players every year.
Yeah.
The feeder groups below you are dwindling because parents are pulling the girls out. So eventually it gets to the point where you've got no feeders coming up. You've got no money. You're paying out of your own pocket. You're hoping that you'll get a good referee, but mostly you're getting kids.
Right.
Because, so you're facing all sorts. Some of the teams, too, had a hard time getting coaches, but we were lucky. We always found a coach.
Right.
And that was the thing, too. I went looking for coaches, I found coaches early on, and then later on they volunteered themselves.
Right. What kept you motivated through all this? Because that's a lot of work. On top of playing, that's a heck of a lot of work.
I just really loved the game, and I never wanted to stop playing. And when I started, I told you the junior girls was 17 to 21. Well, when I turned 21, I was in a panic because it was going to be my last year. And I had told you that we were going to go to this tournament in Toronto in '76. Well, I was turning 21. There was no way I could play in that because they only let girls 19 and under play in their tournaments.
Right.
So I flew to Ontario. I was heading to watch the Olympics in Montreal. Anyways, popped into Ontario, see if they would allow anybody over the age of 21 to come in the tournament. And they made some concessions. They said we could.
Right.
When I came back home, I thought, what are we going to do? So we canvassed. We changed the age group. We made it 17 and over, and so I could continue to play. Other people could continue to play, and all of these Dorothy Robertson Cup tournaments were for women 17 and older. There was no age restriction, and Ontario just stuck to their 19 and under.
Right.
And they they lost out for a couple of years, not sending enough teams up to that tournament. But yeah, I would say battling to have the ages changed was great. I loved the game. I wanted to play for as long as I could.
Right. Now, talking about Team Canada, 1982, how did that opportunity come about to represent Canada first off?
Well, I would have to give credit completely to Ontario, to the Gilkinson family out of Etobicoke. They started the 1978 Etobicoke Tomahawks Women's Field Lacrosse Club. And and they were the only team in Canada at the time, so they had to go to the States to get competition, and they played against international teams. It's because of them that Canada got the invite to that 1982 tournament, because they put women's field lacrosse on the map and other countries took notice, and we got the invite.
Right.
Once we got the invite, then it was partly Dave Evans in BC, Hall of Famer, who was a box lacrosse coach for Kirby's Clipettes.
Yeah, Michelle talked immensely.
Yeah. He was the one that said, hey, if there's going to be a team going to the World Cup, should not be all Ontario players. BC's got to get some players on that team. And so he got involved, and between the East and the West, they had camps, and I attended Dave's camps. The girls in the East attended Paul Gilkinson's skills camps. And then the two camps came together for a big camp we had an American coach. We had Dave Evans as an assistant coach for that national team, and we had Paul Gilkinson as an assistant coach. And so that's how it all came together. That's how we got the invite. And that team was very, very inexperienced because all of us in BC, we had never played a game.
Right.
The Ontario girls had been playing, going
Sure.
to the States and playing games, but we hadn't. We just practiced. All we did was practice. Out on a rainy field, running with that stick with no pocket. practice. Yeah. So it was interesting. When we went to that tournament, I think Michelle probably told you that we shocked everybody there because we came third.
Yep.
I truly believe that it was because we were box players, and we played that field game. We couldn't quite, play the field game the way the Americans and the English played it, and the Scots played it, the Welsh played it. We played it box style as much as we could. So they thought we were rough. You're not allowed to smack somebody's stick if they don't have the ball. Well, we were doing that all the time. So yeah, I think that was our edge. We were a little rougher than they were used to. We were not quite as maybe ladylike in our game skills as they would have liked. And I think that gave us the edge.
That's part of the Canadian lineage, though, right? You look at the 78 Manchester Miracle, and, it was just a bunch of guys playing box on a field. And this is exactly the same thing. It's part of, if we had a commercial, this is part of our heritage, is to play box on a field.
Exactly.
Shock the world. What went through your mind, just first off at the opening ceremonies, you're there. All these young girls from Canada who've never really been too far from anything. Here you are on the other side of the world, and wow, you're representing Canada. Let's just drill into that a little bit.
Well, yeah, that was actually really special. We played in this really beautiful cricket stadium in Nottingham, and it was magnificent. I'd never, had any experience in some kind of facility like that before.
Sure.
And then certainly, though, we did not have very many spectators. However, they did bus in some English schoolgirls from all over the place to try to fill it up a bit. It was the first ever championship, so it was not super well attended, but the experience was incredible. Your flag is up there. You're lining up on the field. It's very formal. It's unlike anything I've ever done before. And of course, I was very proud to wear a Canada jersey and very proud to have a Canada kit of any kind, anything with Canada on it. Oh my goodness, it was just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's too bad it wasn't a box tournament, though.
How much did you guys learn from playing teams like the Americans and the Australians, and as well as everybody else, but just getting out there and seeing different styles, and different people, and different ideology, really?
You learn a lot, but as I look back on it, and as I've been, working on reviewing some of the history and stuff, I think the mistake that was made was trying to get us to play like the Americans.
Right.
And we would never catch up playing the American game, the way the Americans played. And like I said, I think that the box lacrosse gave us an edge that none of the other field lacrosse players had. And when we started bringing in these American coaches, when we came back, we had an American coach for 3 or 4 years. We kind of were losing our edge, the box edge, and we just were not. I don't know. I think that took our edge away and made it very hard for us to catch up.
Right.
There was a lot of catching up to do. They were just too slick. The Americans were very slick.
Right. Fast forward a little bit, you get caught in '86 and get a little disillusioned and say enough of this and start playing other sports. What drew you back? Most people, once they say, that's it, this thing did me wrong, they're not coming back.
What drew me back to lacrosse?
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time. I was very disillusioned when I got cut in '86. There were actually quite a few really good players who are Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame players that got cut too. So what drew me back was Michelle's induction in 2022. when I went home, I thought, I wonder what's going on with women's lacrosse in the world right now. And I typed in box lacrosse, and up pops, women don't play box lacrosse. And that's what I went, what? And then I thought, okay, so if this is kind of what they think out there, I better get to work. And so I started to look into the history of our playing days and see if I could write something about it.
Right.
And that's how I got involved. Now, Michelle also got me involved in serving on the Lacrosse Hall of Fame on the board of directors as well. So I'm doing that as well.
Right.
And Frank, just one correction. I am not in the Hall of Fame as a player, but I'm in the Hall of Fame with my team, the BC Selects field lacrosse team, inducted in 2014.
But you're still in the Hall of Fame.
You're still in the Hall.
I am, but not as a player, as a team member.
Not as an individual. Not as
an individual. Yeah.
Also, and more importantly, as a board of director, to make sure that the right people are getting into the hall as well.
Yeah, we're always looking out for nominations for sure.
Right. Now, at what point did you decide that, wow, this is terrible? We don't have any of our history being captured, that again it's going to be lost in there, because this is really where our story begins. We get the Vicky Brkich historian, and what it's one thing to say, this is terrible, and then you kind of move on to the next thing, but you took it upon yourself, number one, to try and dig through, number two, trying to get in touch with people to try and find a picture here, a story there, a newspaper clipping here, another thing there, and what thought maybe be 15, 20, 50 pictures wound up being a couple of hundred things and a whole lot of great stories. So talk to me about this thing that you just kind of touched into, and poof, here it is, and now you're 4 books in and all kinds of different things to talk about.
Well, it started, like I say, I came home from that induction. I thought, you know what, I'm going to write something about. First of all, I was going to just write about my team, because it was my experience. I was going to just share my memories of my team.
Sure.
And then I realized there were things I was forgetting. And then I started to contact a few people on my team, and they remembered a bit, but not a lot. So I ended up having to contact more people. And then I thought, well, why don't I write about all of the girls' teams in Richmond, not just the team I played for? What about the teams I coached and the other teams? So then I started trying to find these players and contact them for information. And then again, what happened was I hit a roadblock. A lot of people didn't remember. So then I started to contact girls that I played against.
Right.
And girls that played for North Van and Van East and Kirby's. And all of a sudden, I had a gold mine. There were 2 girls that kept everything. I had the league schedules from 1974 with what the scores were. And stuff like that. So from that, I sent emails out. If I could hunt somebody down, that was the hard part, finding people.
Yeah.
I wasn't always successful, but I found a few anyways. Getting their stories, getting them to send pictures, sending memories. And once I started collecting it, I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I enjoyed going back. People that I contacted were so thankful that I contacted them, because it brought back really good memories. And all of a sudden, all these women were talking to each other, and they hadn't connected in a long time, and they wanted this person's email address. Like, can you send me this girl's information? And they had a lot of really neat stories to share that I wasn't aware of when I was playing against them. Didn't know all these things that were going on. Right. And I thought the stories, for me, I thought they were interesting. And I thought, I want to put this in a book, and the whole idea actually was to give it to the Hall of Fame, they've got a website now, they post stuff, they've got, I thought, I want the Hall of Fame to have information proving that women played lacrosse, they played it well, and we don't want to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And it did it for the players. So everybody, I don't sell these books, they're all for free. Anybody who wants a PDF copy can have it. I print hard copies for myself just so I can proofread and edit and whatever, but they're expensive to print off, because they're all there's pictures, team pictures, action shot stories. It's all in color. It's expensive to print.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been fun. I really enjoy it.
Right. Well, let's talk about, kind of reliving yesteryear by getting these people. Was there anybody who stood out to you as, my God, this forgotten collection that nobody has, and I'd forgotten some of this, and you get to relive deja vu. Did you experience that a lot, or?
I did. There were a lot of people, though, unfortunately, who couldn't find their scrapbooks and were upset that they couldn't find things. And a lot of people's memories were off. I'd have to prove things to them by an article that I dug up. Yeah. But on the whole, most of the people I contacted were right on board. But unfortunately, there were a lot of people I contacted who were not on board. They really didn't give me much time. So I just moved on and worked with people who were wanting to share their story and their pictures.
Right. Did you have trouble verifying stories? Because like you said, people remember things differently and, kind of obscured results or events.
Yeah.
To verify all this stuff had to have been a nightmare at times.
Well, depends on what needs to be verified in their personal story. I mean, if it's just about their bumps and bruises and stuff, it didn't matter. But right. Most of the times, I was able to verify things through newspaper articles, and I would double check if I had a lot of discrepancies. I would have one person said it happened this way, another person said it happened that way, and then I would find an article that said how it actually happened, and neither of them are right. So but yeah, it in terms of the scores and things that I put in my books, they're all from newspaper articles.
Right. Was there anything that you discovered that completely changed your own understanding of the history of things?
Well, with this recent book that I just finished, I just really had no idea how extensive Girls Box was in Ontario.
Right.
And I also, I believe that the Girls Box here in BC started up in 72 with, after the Roadrunners won in 71. But then I found proof that the girls were playing here in 70 and 71 as well. But Ontario, it was incredible. I discovered 55 communities in Ontario, and I'm sure there were more, of multiple girls lacrosse teams playing between 1970 and 1977, which is what I was looking at for this last book. It blew me away. I had no idea. Just amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Was writing the books more difficult than researching them, or was it the other way around? Was it just a flow once you got going?
Oh, it was just a flow. I really wanted. I had to struggle sometimes to get the stories. That's what I wanted more than anything, is players' stories and players' memories.
Yeah.
But I had a bit of a trouble with the newspaper articles because a lot of small town newspapers are not online anywhere. Many of those newspapers are now out of business, and I wasn't able to really do a completely thorough job, but I was able to find stuff where I could find it, but not everything. So that was the hard part, is not getting the full picture, but the partial pictures of what was going on. For example, with Quebec, there's a language problem for me there, because I don't speak French. But the earliest I could find any proof of a girls team was 74. So I have no way of finding out if it's earlier or not. And I wasn't able to find a lot of information about Quebec, but more than I was expecting. I got more than I thought I'd get.
Right. Now, when putting all together, people obviously don't see how many hours, the hundreds of hours it takes to put this together, and the phone calls and everything else. What would you like readers to understand about everything that happened behind the scenes in trying to get all this together?
Well, I would hope that if there's anybody out there that has stories to share about the box lacrosse experiences, to write them down and share them with somebody. We need to know your stories, and we need to record them. And And if you're a female and you played back when I played between 1970 and 1982, I'd love to hear your stories too. Very, very important. Otherwise, no one's going to know we ever played. We're only here for a while, right?
Right.
And we all have lacrosse stories to share. And if they're not put down on paper, we lose them forever.
Yeah,
they're gone.
Yeah, that's our whole. As I told you off air, that's our whole MO behind this show for years, is to get the stories out there so that everybody, their stories and the people can live in infamy. And we're just merely here for a while.
I have a couple, Vicky. I have a couple. I'll share them with you later.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I've been trying to do. But I say, it is a lot of work. The first book I wore out the floor underneath my chair in the kitchen, and my husband was a little pissed off with me. Wore right through the linoleum for all the work sitting at the computer. But it's a lot of fact gathering, a lot of researching, a lot of effort trying to find people. Unfortunately, I found people through obituaries and learning what their married names are now when their parents pass away. I was able to find some players because I had the 1981 program from the Dorothy Robertson Cup, which was held in Hamilton, and they listed all the players in there that played in the tournament. So I would, punch those into the Facebook and see what would come up. It was hard work, and I didn't find very many, but I found some. So lots of work behind the scenes, but I have to say it was fun, and I really did like connecting with players and hearing their stories. Yeah. And most of these players are very, very thankful that I've done this and that they've got a copy of this now, and they can share it with their families, which is what I wanted.
I think the other thing is, and I get this a lot too with the people who we've interviewed, and a lot of the current players who didn't know any of the history, who didn't know any of the people, have learned a ton just by all the hard work that you've put on, all the stuff that we've done over the years. And with the books and with all the other things that you've done, I think that, again, a lot of the young girls who are coming up who get a chance to see this, and I honestly think it should be promoted more, because they need to know, in order to grow and go forward, we have to know where we've been and all the things that came along the way to make it why it's easier now, because of things like that and all the things that you guys went through, especially in the 70s and when things disappeared and had to rebuild and bring it up from the ashes and starting to form the Canadian program and all those other things.
Yeah. Like when I finished playing box in 81, there were no feeder teams left. So we had bantams, we had peewee, bantam, midget, all gone.
Right.
And so it just completely died out. And thankfully it came back, and I understand today it's strong. I understand in Ontario that they've had more girls playing box than field right now, which is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're spending their time on this sixes thing because it's in the Olympics.
Yeah,
we've got tournaments, which in my eyes, anything that we can get a stick in a hand is fantastic. We have tournaments coming up for sixes for men and for women, which is again enlightening. Any way we can get the game out there, and then we can teach tradition. But that already is thing. What's your thoughts with it now being into the Olympics? First off, of sixes, which is kind of box on field. And you guys were ahead of the curve on that too then.
Yes, I have to tell you though, in 1984, we were supposed to be a demonstration sport in the Olympics. Our field team was supposed to go, and they ended up not having it, and they just did a men's field thing off in the bush somewhere. I attended it; it was not good. So now that it's in the Olympics, I mean, wow, that is fantastic. I would love to see box lacrosse in the Olympics, but I don't think that will happen for a long time. But this sixes game, I've only seen it once. I've seen it on TV. I've watched the Canada-USA final a couple of years ago. I've seen it once in person. I would love to have played it because it's way better than the field lacrosse that I played. for sure. Much closer to what I would have, liked my lacrosse experience to be.
And a pocket, right?
And a pocket with this, yeah. So I'm excited that it's going to be in the Olympics, and it's being played all over the world now in this game. So our game is, when I played field, there were only 6 countries in the world playing it for women.
Right.
And now I think there's 40 or 50, something like that, maybe more.
5, yeah, if I remember Bob DeMarco right.
Yeah, like just it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and also for box, when I played box, we were the only women in the world playing box. There was nobody else playing in the world, and look where it is now. And I'm still a little upset that the USA beat Canada in that Women's World Box tournament in 2024.
That was a made-for-TV thing, though. Being a Canadian, I was also, I wanted Canada to win. But for the women's game, that first of all, being there and watching it, and I, like many, you go there to watch the guys play, and before you know it, the women stole the show. That entire tournament, the women stole the show. There were so many other stories going on that were around the women and the camaraderie and the teaching and all the other aspects of it, and all the countries that were gaining experience doing it. But they stole the show, and having Canada up in the 4th and having the U.S. come from behind and win for the game itself, it probably was the best thing for it, because they beat the big bad Canadians. But it was also when we dug down deep, and again talked with Aaron Bakes and a few of the other Emily Harris-Chuck, and when we took a look at the Canadians didn't get a practice until 2 weeks before the championships. The U.S. spent the time and the money and the equipment, and they were ready for this tournament. And I think the right team came out on top. And if we're not careful in Canada, that could happen more times than not if we just rest on our laurels.
That's right. And that is why that there needs to be a national championship for women over the age of 22.
Right.
That Dana Dobie at age 39 could play in the box World Cup, but she's never played in a Canadian national championship because she's too old.
Yeah, brought that up on the show. She brought that up on the show.
Yeah,
it was incredible talking to her as well.
Unbelievable, and I don't know what we need to do to wake somebody up somewhere in Canada and say, what's going on here? 1982 is a long time to have to wait for a national championship. Granted, we had 17 and over as our age group. Now they have this 22 and under big tournament coming up this summer.
Yep.
The Carol Patterson Cup. I don't know why they're hung up on the age having to stop at 22, though. I don't get it. I really don't. We played all the time. My whole playing career, I played with girls 17, 18, 19, and I was 24, 25. There's really no difference.
Yep.
They're younger and stronger and faster.
I agree. And, it's funny because my biggest thing, and I've said this many times, is we can't get out of our own way when we're trying to grow the game, which is why we can't grow the game. We just cannot get out of our own way with silly rules and silly regulations along the way, when what we should be doing is promoting it any way we can and getting as many eyes and as many hands with sticks as we humanly can to grow it. Yeah,
I know. I just don't know it. There's another thing too. The Lacrosse Canada website has they list all the national champions for men's and women's and kids box and field lacrosse on their website, and they have not yet mentioned the Dorothy Cup Robertson winners from the 5 years it was a box tournament, and the 15 years it was a field tournament, national field tournament. They have not put those up on their site. I have asked them repeatedly to please do so, and still we can't even get the players of the past honored on the website. Recognition for playing in a national championship. I don't understand it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It's another example of we can't get out of our own way.
Yeah.
And through genetics and silly stuff, we just can't seem to get ourselves moving forward and staying moving forward. We get there a bit, and then we make a veer, and then we try and we make another veer. If we could actually get a number of positions where we could actually move forward, it'd be amazing to see where we actually wind up.
Yeah.
What did they give as what did they give as the reason that they're not? Did they give you a reason why they're not?
I haven't been technically given any reasons, but when it's interesting, I did contact a player who now works for Lacrosse Canada. She's a very good box player, and she's 32 years old. So
she's older than 22.
That's right. She can't play in a national championship in Canada, but she played for Canada in the box tournament in Utica. She said that they want to concentrate this year just on the U22 tournament. And that made me think that maybe they might consider a senior tournament next year. But I don't know. Obviously, I don't know who decides on age groups. Is U22 a world lacrosse age group? If it is, then they're not going to change that. But the women's, like I say, the women's box World Cup and the women's field World Cup, they're all ages. It's just called senior women. They're of any age. So I don't know where we get this. It has to be U22.
Yeah.
I guess they don't think they have enough under 22 if they open it up to everybody, if they have one that goes with everyone. It sounds almost like they're consolidating, but in the attempt to consolidate, you're basically destining yourself to failure because you're not open to everybody. To Gary's point, you got to be open to everybody. If you're not open to everybody, you're turning somebody off, and that's silly. That just doesn't make sense. But I guess for some reason, they know there aren't enough players. Maybe might be why they're doing it.
Yeah, maybe. But you know what? There's more girls playing today in Canada than there ever were when I played. Way more, thousands more.
It's not a saying, but I'll say this: you got to try, and fail is okay, but you shouldn't fail to try.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So like I say, I was shown the Ontario box lacrosse. They've got about 350 women playing, like older women playing Ontario. That's more than we had in Canada back when we were playing, when I was playing.
Right.
We didn't have 350, Pardon?
Sounds like enough to have a senior tournament.
I think so. And that's just with Ontario. BC has their senior leagues out here. I'm sure there's senior leagues in other provinces as well. I'm sure
middle Canada, between Alberta and Manitoba, Saskatchewan, they all have their program.
Yeah. And I talk, sometimes we Lacrosse Hall of Fame, we go to various tournaments and we put up a display to show people about the hall. And I talked to some girls who were aging out. They're BC players who were turning 22. And I said, well, what are you going to do now? She says, well, I'm going to go off to university, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or whatever. I said, well, is there no opportunity for you to play anymore? She said, not really. And I thought, well, why are we losing 22-year-olds to nothing organized and having them leave the game? I don't get that.
Yeah. Well, until the WLL came out, we really had nothing for anybody to go to once they got out of school, which, again, makes no sense. You're at the top of your game, and, well, thank you very much.
Exactly. Yeah. Or another girl said, I've come back from university. I finished my college degree. I've been playing field and box, and now I've got nowhere to go. Come on, let's get going here.
Right.
You're right. If we don't do something, the U.S. is going to win these tournaments every year.
Yeah. And years ago we had this thing where we couldn't, get enough girls together and they'd have to play in the boys' league. Now we can keep girls' leagues,
That's
but
right.
we don't do anything once they're developed.
That's
and
right.
Again, we're in our own way. We can't get out of our own way to actually grow this thing correctly.
Yeah.
We have the right minds. We have the right people. We just can't seem to get ourselves with an organization that's on the same page. And this has been for eons that we just can't get it all together.
Yeah, I know. There's been some restriction along the way, the whole journey. And when I played, I had no idea that girls in Ontario, once they turned 19, they had to quit. They couldn't play anymore. And I was playing in BC. I was 21, 22, and they were all having to quit. And I'm hearing their, this recent book that I wrote, I was reading their stories, and yeah, it was like, what the heck? Why did they have to quit? But we're still playing in BC. We're going in the national tournament. They're not. Little Etobicoke, they came to our tournament, the first national tournament, against the wishes of Ontario. They came independently on their own steam. They were a field team. A box team turned into a field team, going back to being box to go in this national tournament. They came on their own without any support. Ontario refused to let them have any scrimmages against Ontario teams to prepare. Stuff like that. Like, come on, get over it. Let these girls compete, and at that time, that was the highest level. It's the first time in Canada that two box teams, senior women's box teams, played each other within that '78 tournament in White Rock. And this should have happened before that,
Absolutely. Now, down the road, 50, 100 years from now, and somebody finds the name Vicky Brkich, what do you want them to remember about you and what you have done for the game and what the name represents?
I just want them to really have a good picture of what it was like when we played. When I went back in time 100 years ago, and looked and saw that women were playing field in 1927, and they were playing some kind of box game in the 30s, I had no idea what their game was like. So I could not find any information about, I don't think they had equipment. Did they hit? I knew they fought. I knew they got into scuffles, but there was nothing written about how did they play their game and how did it work. And in my first two books, I explained about how we played our game and what we did. And so the future reader, however lacrosse turns in 100 years, or however it changes in its rules, someone can look back and see, well, this is how they played it. This is how they felt about it. These are the competitions they had at the time. And these are the discriminations they faced against, because some did. And that's kind of what I'm hoping will happen. They'll look back and they'll get a good picture of what the experience was like for our generation.
Right. How does our audience get a hold of your book?
Oh, well, they can, they go on the Canada sort of Lacrosse Hall of Fame website. Most of my books are there, but just a second here, I've got where did I write it here? My email address. I've got a specific email address that people can send me if they want any copies of any books. Can Women's Lacrosse History at gmail.com.
Okay.
Can Women's Lacrosse History at gmail.com. Still waiting for someone to send me an email at that address. I set it up specifically for this. Haven't got one yet. So
do it again for me.
Can Women's Lacrosse History at gmail.com. But my books should be on the Lacrosse Hall
just
of Fame
to
website.
confirm, have a look at under my picture. Is that right?
Yes. It doesn't have to have a capital C, but that's good. Yeah, that's it.
It naturally does that with the first letter.
That's it. Can Women's Lacrosse History at gmail.com. And I will send a copy of any book anybody wants, PDF format. And they're free for anybody.
I really appreciate you writing that book, and I do understand and believe how difficult it can be to do this kind of chore. It's easy when it's famous leagues, famous players. You can Google, you can look in books and steal information, research, sort of research after research. When you're the initial researcher, that's a tough challenge. I appreciate what you did.
Yeah. And I really appreciate a lot of the people that have helped me gather material. I have to say that Stan and Paul Gilkinson from Ontario, wow, they just had a lot of information to share, and thankful because of what they kept, and records they kept, and pictures they kept, and articles they kept. I was able to really tell the Ontario story quite well. So people like that, I'm really thankful that I came across them.
Don't tell too many people that you're working hard for Ontario. Out there in the West. You gotta keep it our secret. Let's not tell anyone.
Yeah, I won't tell anybody. I'm working hard for it, for any part of Canada that has some history about women's lacrosse to share.
Totally fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to thank you for taking the time to relive yesteryear, to talk about the history, to talk about your history, and to talk about actually where we're going as well. And just to kind of roll it all in an hour here, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, you guys, for having me. And I really appreciate you taking the time and the interest to take a look at some women's lacrosse information. You know, we played box, and we did it pretty well back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love my chats with Michelle and talking about things before and things during and things after, and you know, all the other things that come along with it. So yeah, I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right. For Gary Groob and Vicky Brkich, a member of the Hall of Fame with her team, former player and historian. I got that straight. See how I can fix things when I get them wrong.
You fixed it good.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Gary, and everybody who watched. Remember that book. You can always, when you're watching it, pause and look at my name, and you'll see the name of the book, or where you can get it at the very least. Email, and you'll get a copy of that book. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next Thursday to get inside lacrosse, as we always do every week.